Are we headed for a recession? Are we in a recession?
Most CEOs I talk to would say we are probably in a recession right now.
Right now?
Right now. A couple of airline CEOs told me, one CEO specifically said, the airline industry is like a proverbial bird in a coal mine, canary in the coal mine. And I was told that the canary is sick.
This makes perfect sense. Why Blackstone, Larry Fink's little baby, has been leaning into Section 8 housing, and why Warren Buffett has been sitting on $300+ billion in cash, waiting for this market crash. Welcome all to the Blockchain Basement. We're going to dive into some crazy charts and massive news just breaking right after we got done with our live stream. President Trump has threatened an additional 50% tariff on China if it does not withdraw its 34% tariff increase. A little tit for tat between China and Trump. I wonder who's gonna blink first. Is it gonna be America and Trump's insane ego, or is it gonna be China and its massive amount of products that it needs to find a home for as the manufacturing industry keeps pumping out those goods? Let me know down in the comments who you think is gonna blink first on that subject. Absolutely insane. But in the midst of these tariff announcements, the markets are reeling. This is the S&P 500 with a massive pullback. We started off the day in trading, falling all the way down to 4,800 on the SPX. Currently, the overall losses for today coming in at 21.4%, but we are trying to bounce off this historical level. Kind of interesting to see that we fell all the way down to that previous peak in January 22 and then bounced on up from there. But if you zoom out on the SPX, man, these are pullbacks that we've seen time and time again, and then the market continues on and up to the right. January 22 to October of 2022 saw a 27% pullback. Also during flu season, another massive pullback with a snap crash down 34%. And during flu season, we had a snap crash down to 35% losses in a very short amount of time on the SPX, but then resurged up to new highs. And many people have been comparing our current pullback that we're seeing on the Wall Street and SPX side to Black Monday, which was October 19th of 1987. And here it is, a very, very quick snap flash that happened where people capitulated the same way we're seeing them capitulate now. Very fast velocity where it dropped 36%. But when you really zoom out and when you're in all of this doubt, please, for the love of God, zoom out on these charts here. The short-term pain is the Braves' gain for the people that are brave enough to buy the massive market pullbacks. And boy, howdy, has it been a massive market pullback. I am covered in red viewership here. Bitcoin is currently sitting at $78,492. XRP broke below $2 for the first time in quite a while. Solana broke below 100. It's been a while since I've seen Solana below $100. Chainlink at $11.30 right now. Absolutely crazy. Ondo's slightly up. Thank God for Ondo. And there are a couple of projects like Plume that have been doing pretty relatively well, but I've taken a massive hit on the Aerodrome bag back to my average entry point or slightly below it. So that's a little bit of pain, but doing great on Avalanche. Still we're at $16.70 right now. And Aptos. So it does look like the altcoins are trying to start that resurge ahead of Bitcoin. Very, very interesting to see. Another chart we like keeping an eye on is the Bitcoin dominance graph. And here we can see things are starting off pretty hot and heavy, but this may be a rejection candle as it did not accomplish that full 64.3%, put up a wick, and now it might be on its way back down if these altcoins, like as we see here with Ohm, Hype, Ondo, all the rest, trying to make that resurgence ahead of Bitcoin. As it sits right now, there's no denying the pullback is looking at us right in the face here. The trade war escalation is hitting risk assets hard. From crypto.news, Bitcoin down 19%, Ethereum down 40%. Damn. And crypto has shed $1 trillion since February. The correlation with stocks is rising, and Bitcoin is behaving less like digital gold and more like tech stocks. Meanwhile, gold is hitting new all-time highs. People are fleeing to safety in the short term, but in my opinion, eventually the market's going to realize that Bitcoin is digital gold and a more superior version of it. And now with all these trade war talks and this chaos on the markets as we opened up this nasty Black Monday moment, over 50 countries have responded positively to Trump's tariff instigations so far from Scott Bessent, a good sign that there are going to be major concessions made, and a couple good new deals. And this is Trump addressing the elephant in the room first and foremost, the ugly stuff, the painful stuff first, so that he can have a bunch of bullish news, a bunch of positivity to dive into afterwards once the real issues with America are tackled first and foremost. And you know what? A lot of people appreciate what Trump's doing on the tariff side, especially producers here in the United States.
Who have you never been able to sell your product to?
Well, the European community has been a big market that we'd love to get to, and certainly Australia is another one that sells lots of beef here in the United States, but we don't get to sell to them.
How does this moment in time feel like a game changer for your industry?
Well, I think we're happy that the president finally singled us out and said that we do need to increase our beef sales to other countries, and that he's going to try and make an effort to do that. So it'll be a great time for our industry if we can sell more and have a better market and higher prices.
I personally love to see this. Farmers are some of the hardest working people on the planet, and we've been getting outpaced by other countries in these unfair trade setups. But with this awesome movement that, in my opinion, will turn out for the better for America in the long term, there is major fear and major uncertainty setting into the market right now. People are talking about Trump's economic policies triggering stagflation fears in the United States. This is ridiculous to be blaming Trump for us moving towards a stagflationary pattern. We literally were already on path for this anyways under the Biden administration. The Trump derangement syndrome is taking hold. The player haters against Trump and the Republicans are out there dancing on their hill today, trying to exacerbate the fears that the snap crash has created. But are we at the bottom? Did this crash signal a major buying opportunity, or is this the beginning of a bear market? Let's dive into it and see what we're looking at on Bitcoin side particularly, and crypto. Here is the Pi cycle top indicator, one of the best top indicators in all of crypto. The red and green lines represent the red in the 111-day moving average and the green in the 350-day moving average times 2. And when these do cross, that marks historically the top of the Bitcoin price action. The more room you have between these two lines, the more room you have to run in Bitcoin's price. And let's zoom in to our current situation here. As you can see, it crossed perfectly in 2021. What's up, bro? Now we go over here and we have plenty of room to run in terms of Bitcoin and the price, in my opinion, because these averages are moving further away from each other. And this tells me that we actually have a potential for an extended cycle period. Plenty of room for activities here in the crypto realm. And also another great indicator is the 200-week moving average heat map. This is where oftentimes bottoms are signaled in the macro for Bitcoin when it reaches this 200 WMA on the heat map, but also the tops signaled by red or orange bubbles being painted for overextension on Bitcoin's price. As we sit right now, we are not at that flatline ultimate bottom bear market movement for Bitcoin, but we also are not peaking out and showing those overbought territories. And all this while the fear and greed is at extreme fear. A quick reminder, we do not end bull markets in extreme fear. We end them in euphoria and overhype. As we see, Bitcoin accomplished that famous 109 level that everyone's calling the gigatop, and now it's down only from here, when the fear and greed index was at a 60. Currently, we're sitting at a 17 in extreme fear. And if you're trying to sell me on the fact that we accomplished an all-time high in Bitcoin and now it's down only when the fear and greed index was at a 60, I laugh at your face. I think you are a fool, but I'm here to help you. I can understand why people are so afraid. The markets look so scary, folks. Now, one thing about this that I have been noting is that we are chopping in this 30% pullback at a lower range in the overall Fibonacci sequence compared to last cycle. So I am taking that into account and actually expecting us to only accomplish the middle of the purple range in our current bull market scenario. But that being said, we accomplished the all-time high well ahead of schedule, and something very, very interesting popped up to me on this chart today. Let's have a look. So what I'm looking at here is the overall market structure of this first impulse of Bitcoin's price action. Just kind of looked a little bit similar to our current situation. So let's do some measurements. Let's see how far away that was from the previous all-time high in December of 2017. We pull this measurement from the wick of the previous all-time high in December of 2017 all the way to that downside wick that we experienced in May of 2021. This was a total of 1,253 days. From peak to downward movement wick before we had a secondary resurgence up to the next level of all-time highs. Now we take a look at our current situation here, and this massive pullback just kind of gave me similar vibes to this major pullback right here. So I just wanted to do a quick measurement, see how far away from wick to wick that actually came out. Lo and behold, that is 1,246 days from the previous cycle peak to this first major capitulation in the overall bull market. Very, very interesting to note. But I do keep in mind that in this bull market, these pullbacks, you were wondering if it was truly over, if Operation Choke Point 2.0 was going to strangle crypto out of existence, and if the real outlook for crypto was not going to be accepted by the powers that be. But now we are in our current situation. We have strategic reserves being talked about by over 25 states along the United States, plus countries across the world, and a federal Bitcoin Strategic Reserve Act being worked out in the background. This all in tandem with the incoming narrative and application of BIT bonds or Bitcoin treasury bonds, which I think is going to be a game changer for United States finance. So in this pullback, I've never felt more comfortable about holding Bitcoin and about holding the top alts like Chainlink, Ondo, etc. Because I know that crypto is here to stay, and I'm not really worried about Operation Choke 0.0 as I was in these time frames. There are some key events to come up this week that we got to keep an eye on. This is from Lark Davis. The tariffs are going into effect on Wednesday. We have the FOMC minutes coming out on Wednesday as well. CPI data coming out Thursday, PPI coming out Friday, and this is going to be a massive, massive week of volatility. With all of this data and all that we have to look forward to in crypto, I really doubt that this is the bottom and the beginning of the next bear market. This is a healthy resetting of the markets, and we don't end bull markets in a level of fear. We end them in overhyped, overbought exuberation of NFTs being worth $1 million, $2 million, and people that got in early on crypto trying to find the next little island to buy. What we just saw is continuation of the side that's happening as BlackRock and major institutions and governments are lining their pockets with Bitcoin while scaring the hell out of the average investor so that they can take as much as possible from the small holders. Hope you found this information insightful. If you have theories and you think that the top is in, let me know down in the comments below. But if you think that this was a healthy capitulation event that sets us up for new highs, I want to hear from you down in the comments below. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you on the next one.